Having a website is the number one most important thing that you can do for your business or personal brand in 2024.
As a nonprofit, your website is your most important digital asset. With that said, we are going to have a series here on Sana Digital Marketing YouTube channel where we do website case studies with the aim of helping nonprofits further optimize their websites. Because again, as I've said before, for a nonprofit, your website is your number one most important digital asset. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. The first thing your website visitors are going to see is the landing page, the landing of your homepage. And therefore, it is important to make a strong statement with the landing of your homepage by having your mission statement be part of that section, be part of the first thing that your website visitors will see. The second thing that is going to impact how your website visitors interact with your website is the amount of items on the header, the amount of items on your primary menu. As I shared before in a previous video about the 10 most important elements of an effective nonprofit website, I did say that we do not recommend having more than five items in your primary menu, because for a lot of donors that is going to be simply too overwhelming. So for this particular website, you can see that they have around 8 items in the navigation in the primary menu. We would compress that to about 3. We would compress that to having the impact page, the about us page, and then leave the donate now button where it is. If we were to add anything more, it would be a support us page where there are various other more options of how a particular donor can support this nonprofit. So right now you can see they have the home button, about us, events, team, pillars, contact, blog. The about us section can comfortably house the contact page, can comfortably house your blog, can comfortably house your team. Now, those are all things that can be compacted to be under the about us section. Then you can have your impact page where you share all the particular programs that your particular website is running. Now, another thing I will say for this particular website is that you can see they have a dark fade under their text. Now, this goes back into the color theory. For you know that different colors are better suited to particular businesses. Now, for nonprofits, you always want to go with colors that are reflecting of the nonprofit sector, which is hinged on trust, which is hinged on reliability, on being trustworthy and transparent. And one of the best colors for that is usually blue. So when someone comes to your nonprofit website and it has this dark fade, it can have a negative connotation, because again, most people make decisions using the subconscious part of their brain, not the logical part of their brain. So that is the feedback that I would share for this particular landing section of the Rising Hearts Foundation. So we're going to scroll through and then see that they have a sticky menu. A sticky menu is a menu that does not disappear as you navigate further down the website. The feedback I would have for Rising Hearts Foundation is that their sticky menu is entirely too thick. It's too thick. The purpose of having a sticky menu is so that the website visitor does not forget what website they're on or does not get confused. As a good example, you can see on my page right now, I have various websites that are open at the same time, and therefore that is usually the logic or the rationale of having a sticky menu, is so that when someone is navigating many websites at the same time, for them to remember that they are on your particular website. And so I do commend them for that. The only feedback I would have for them is that this menu, it's too thick, and therefore it creates a negative browsing experience. So scrolling further down, you can see here they have a get involved section that allows their website visitors to either become a member, become a volunteer, or become a partner. The feedback I would have for this particular section is that under the become a volunteer section, the call to action should not be donate now, it should be sign up, because in order for somebody to become a volunteer, oftentimes on most websites, the volunteer does need to sign up a form to share relevant information that will help the nonprofit vet out or select the best people who would be the best fit to become volunteers for their particular nonprofit. The other thing that I would share as feedback for this section is become a member. Now, as I shared before in a previous video where we talk about the 10 elements of an effective nonprofit website, we shared that there is a difference between between sponsors and donors. And in that video, we shared that donors are everyday individuals who can donate to your nonprofit anywhere between 50 shillings and a maximum of, let's say, 100,000. That's a donor. But any organization, any person who can donate to your nonprofit 100,000 plus, that is a sponsor. And so there is a difference between those two particular stakeholders, and your website should accommodate both. So here I would create a space for one column to be for sponsors. That would be, in this particular case, they become a partner column. That would be for sponsors, and the first one would be for donors. And so I would change this become a member section to be donate to our cause or give today, and the call to action under that would be donate now. And for the become a partner section, it would be partner with us or something like that. Then we are going to scroll further down, and this is the about us section, and it shares actual quantitative numbers sharing the impact that they've had. That is very commendable. Now you can see here they say about us, and then down here they say about us again. So to avoid having repetitive information on your website, I would recommend that you choose the most important thing that would be impactful to your donor, that would be impactful to the stakeholder that you're communicating with. So yeah, instead of having this about us section and this about us section on top, I would compress the two and have it be just one long about us section featuring the most important thing that I want the stakeholder to focus on. Then under that, they have the call to action. Now, on your website, you never ever want to have a section that says that, because this does not communicate to any particular stakeholder. Call to action is a language that is only important, that is only effective in the behind the scenes perspective. Call to action is something that makes sense to your digital marketer, to your website developer, and to people who work internally. So I would remove that section there entirely. Then they have the upcoming event section. That's fine. Now, the only thing that I would the only thing that I would recommend a lot of nonprofits avoid is having this dark fade. Dark fades, they don't fit within the nonprofit sector. Because the nonprofit sector is all about transparency. It's all about credibility. It's all about trust. And so you really want to tap into that aspect of marketing and really think about how colors, images, and that sort of thing, how they affect the stakeholder who is navigating your website. Then they have their team. Then they have the blog section. Now, when you're adding your blog section to your website, it is often advisable to think about how the settings you use on the back end, how they translate on the front end, so that you have a very clean and a very sleek design. And we are going to be doing a lot more website case studies specifically for nonprofits. So if you're interested in that kind of content, then consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, as well as turning on your post notification bell so you are notified when the content goes live. So we are going to be featuring websites that feature all the best practices that we are talking about, so you can see the contrast of what is ideal and what is not ideal. Another feedback I have for this particular website is you can see that they are part of the Google AdSense program, which someone would argue, well, because because they are a nonprofit, this is another way for their nonprofit to make money. A challenge with being on part of the Google AdSense program is that it is very difficult for you to be vigilant, strict about what businesses can advertise on your website, because all businesses that advertise on Google, that adhere to their best practices, their terms and conditions, can advertise on all websites that are part of the Google AdSense program. And so you have to be very, very mindful. When you're making that decision. But long story short, I would not recommend that any nonprofit website open up their website to advertising by Google, because what would happen if there is an ad here that clashes with the beneficiaries of this particular nonprofit? For example, it would be so contradictory if a website visitor comes and sees an advertisement here by Tasker, and yet Raising Hearts Foundation serves children. Okay, so I understand the logic behind wanting to open your website up to additional sources of revenue. But again, as a nonprofit, there's so many additional considerations to make when you're thinking about additional sources of income. Then under here, we have the footer section. Now you can see the page, it kind of has a runoff effect where the transitions are not as smooth to tell the website visitor that you are transitioning from one segment to the next. And so the feedback I would have would be to add a divider that divides the other part of the website from the footer section, just to create that distinction. Then under their footer section, they have a summary of the nonprofit. Then they have their blog section. Then they have the contact information, and I think that's their team. So the feedback I would have for this particular footer section is instead of the contact information, which is not all that helpful because there's no way that the particular stakeholder can call you guys from this contact information. There's no way for them to find out where your offices are. And so I would say that this contact section is not well optimized. I would recommend that if you're going to focus on having the contact information, I would recommend having the various nonprofit phone numbers be availed here. I would recommend having your location also be availed here. I would also recommend having all your social media accounts be availed under the contact section as well. Now, on the final side, instead of having the image of their team, I would recommend having either the impact section or having the support section where various stakeholders can choose which way they want to support their nonprofit. Now, because we don't want these videos to be too long, because that will defeat the purpose of why we are creating these videos, we are going to end this here. If you want us to do a deeper dive into any particular website, then please let us know in the description bar below. Again, for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the post notification bell, and we'll see you in the next one.